In this episode, we talk about amenity. Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Real Estate TV. We're back. It is the first episode of 2020. Really pumped. Very, very pumped for this year. I've actually already shot 2 episodes. I just haven't had the time to cut them together yet. Both of them were interviews. I actually guest starred on someone else's podcast and they're pushing that out next week. And I'll also push it out across my platforms too. And I interviewed someone else talking about wealth creation, and I'll cut that together, and that will be up very, very soon as well. But in today's episode, we're going to be talking about amenity, and we're going to be going through why that's an important factor to consider when you're buying a property, especially your first home. You've got to get that first one right to set yourself up. And set your portfolio up, especially if you're considering buying a couple of properties. So we're going to jump straight in. So I have done an episode on amenity before and the importance of it. Now, the reason that amenity is so important is because you got to think about when you got to resell the property. So you buy a property in the hope that it's worth more down the track. Now, reselling that property down the track, you got to think about what the next purchaser will be looking for, and they're probably going to be looking for things like proximity to freeways, proximity to train stations, proximity to shops, maybe bars, cafes, restaurants, but less so, especially sort of further out in the suburbs. That's less of an expectation and more of a nice, pleasant surprise. But those are the important things that people look for. Most of the time, properties closer into those things have less days on market, and they end up being sold quicker. End up being sold closer to the price that the purchaser actually wants. So whenever I'm speaking with either a first home buyer or an investor or anyone really, and they're looking at buying land, I always make sure that they are being looked after by advising them that they need to be close to that amenity. Lots of investors, when they're building out their portfolio, wouldn't touch anything if it wasn't close to that amenity. Walking distance is ideal. Driving distance really depends on what the property is. Obviously, on something like an acreage site, it's a bit hard to be walking distance to town. They're typically on the outskirts of a town, so you would forgive that. But I think something like a medium density, like a townhouse, really needs to be walking distance. It really goes hand in hand with that whole culture of small and affordable and walking distance. I think I wouldn't touch anything that wasn't walking distance, unless it was a really, really good bargain to start. That's the other piece as well. You still have to consider, is it a bargain? But yeah, I genuinely believe that is one of the more important things. And the reason for that is, if you have a look at people's spending habits, people like to buy time. What I mean by that is, if you have a look at some of the biggest businesses in the world, like Amazon and Netflix even, they actually all sell time. So why wouldn't you try and pull off the same trick by buying close to amenity and saving people time going to the shops, commuting a long time to the shops and commuting far to the freeway? I just think you're setting yourself up for success if you do that. And that's really it. It's a nice short episode. It's the first episode of the series, but really, really short. I think we've only been going for 4 minutes, but I like that. Nice, punchy in and out. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any suggestions for this year, something you'd like to see, we have a couple of gaps further down the year. Chuck in a recommendation. You never know, we might see an episode. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and pass it around. Your word of mouth is really, really important to the growth of the show. See you next time.